record. Okay, I think we are recording, and I think it's time. Okay, so we're going to get started. Would love to create as much of engagement with you as possible during our time together, but the focus here is on achieving SMART goals. So I hope you all brought some ideas and some thoughts about what kind of goals you want to be setting for yourself today during our conversation. I will share with you some practical examples as well. If you did not already do so, I hope you saw the link from the emails that I sent for you to download a SMART goals template. I sent them certainly the last two emails, possibly even before. So if you go to the one you got at the top of the hour, the previous hour, or 15 minutes ago, you should be able to find it, and that will guide you as well in terms of how we're going to move this process forward. So bear with me, please, as we begin our journey together, and I'm looking forward to engaging with you. For those of you not familiar with who I am, my name is Naphtali Hoff. I'm a former educator and educational leader turned into all this stuff on the left side, primarily executive coach, but I consult, I write, I present, and I even love to garden, which is unfortunate at this time of year because all my tomato plants are dying, but you're not here to provide that support for me, I don't think, at this moment. But we could certainly commiserate offline if you would like. And what I do is I help understaffed entrepreneurs, small business owners, nonprofit leaders do more with less and do so with reduced stress. That's my mission. That's my goal. I help business leaders really of all kinds, but there's a particular emphasis that I've placed and would love to get you some resources on that as we move our process and conversation forward. So the best way for you, since I have muted everybody, the best way for you to engage with me, at least for now, is by entering questions into the chat. I will prompt you from time to time, but you can certainly feel free to jump in if you have a question. Based off our pacing, I may decide not to respond immediately, but I will try to get to all of them as quickly as I possibly can. So that's enough about me for the moment. Here are our objectives for today. Number one, I want to be clear on what SMART goals are. We've been talking about in all the publicity, setting SMART goals, but what exactly are they and what aren't they? Number one. Number two, to review examples of well-structured business-related goals. And then finally, number three, to practice developing your own SMART goals. And because our time today will be short, I will invite you to shoot over to me at a later point, if that's what's necessary, your goals, so that you can pass them on and I can take a look at them and possibly help you refine them if need be. Okay, so I hope that was clear. Like I said before, feel free to jump in with any questions. Here is a goal that I set for this webinar, and you can see from the participation, we're certainly not anywhere near there at the moment. The number of registered participants is much higher, so I'm hopeful that folks will join us shortly. But for the time being, we have to move forward with who's here. And the goal for the webinar is you'll see there's a lot here, but we're going to unpack it all, and you'll notice in the parentheses what is described by the text that precedes it. So in order to attract a minimum of 50 people to sign up for my SMART Goals webinar, we actually had, I think, 25 or 26 by the time that I went to launch. So I only met my goal halfway, which is, it was a bit of an ambitious number, but I like to shoot high and try for the max and then sort of work my way down if need be. That's my specific goal. So 50 people to sign up for a webinar. It's something that's specific and measurable, as we will see. I will post to social media daily for a week prior to the event, which I did. I will also email my list 2 times and post a copy of the flyer to my WhatsApp status. Those are all my whats. Those are the actions that I committed to take in order to ensure that I would have the kind of turnout that I was hoping for. By achieving this level of participation, I could add massive value it's probably going to just minimize it. There we go. To the toolkits of hardworking small business leaders and entrepreneurs while familiarizing them with me and my services, including newly forming coaching groups. So that's why it's important for me to be able to have lots of people at this presentation. How will I achieve that? I will set calendar reminders and use Buffer to schedule posts. I did that. And finally, when the number of registrants is achieved, I will feel excited about the level of participation that my presentation will have and a large-scale impact. Something missing there. I'm trying to drag this over. It's not really letting me. Will have a large-scale impact. Okay, that's how I will feel. Now, I'm excited that you're here, so do not worry about my level of excitement just because I did not reach that number, but just to give you a feel for what a SMART goal could look like and why it's powerful, as we'll talk about, by adding that emotional element, because ultimately, emotion is a huge driver in our success. And the more that we can attach emotion to what we want to do, in most cases, the more we're going to achieve. So that is where we are for the moment. Just 1 second, please. I do want to check over here. That is so interesting. So I see that I've got 11 people who are present, but I only see a couple. Oh, that's why, because not everybody responded. Could everybody just jump in with a quick hello into the chat so that I know you're there and listening and make me feel all warm and fuzzy? That would be great if you could do that. Okay, why do you want to stick around until the very end? Not only because I'm super interesting, I hope, but more importantly because I want to give you an opportunity to practice. I do have a special offer for all of you for being here for coaching groups that I am rolling out. And I also want to give you a link to my Epic Solution to Understaffing ebook, which you can see in the backdrop over here. So whether you're a nonprofit leader, you're a small business leader, and if that doesn't describe you, the content is basically the same with some differences in the practical examples. Thank you to Kessler Torah and Linda and T. Dickey and MH and everyone else who has not yet said hello. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being with me. And we move on. Okay, so very quickly, we want to be clear that our focus, as you will see, is process. There are different types of different types of goals. There are process goals and there are product goals. And we're actually going to do a very brief quiz. So I hope you are paying close attention to just understand the difference between process and product. Okay, so a process is how I will get there, and a product is the outcome that I will achieve. So I may want to lose 20 pounds. That'll be my product or outcome. But in order to get there, I'm going to exercise 3 times a week for 45 minutes per activity. I'm not guaranteeing that one necessarily produces the other, but for the purpose of conversation. If I want to write a 20,000 word book, I know that I'm also recording this on Facebook Live, and my good friend Henry DeVries, who is the publisher and a wonderful individual who you should all get to know, was watching earlier. I think he still is. So if I want to write a 20,000 word book, mine I think was 23,000 words, you need to put in, let's say, 500 words a day for 5 days over 6 weeks, 6 months, for example. And so you see how this goes. So the process are the individual steps you take, and the product is the ultimate outcome that you intend or hope to achieve. So let's now move to our next slide and see which is process and which is product. Okay, so process, actually you tell me, of the ones that are process, please put the numbers in the chat. Between 1 and 5, a couple of them are process. Please select the ones you think fit that description. MH, thank you so much for getting us started. Anyone else? Okay, Kessler Torah, same. Okay, and those are correct, 2, 3, and 5. And that's because these are specific actions that you can control. You cannot control number 1, right? You don't know if you'll be promoted. Now, you could take action to being promoted, whatever those might look like. You can't control that you will fit into a size 10 outfit by December 31st, but you can take actions towards that goal as well. We are going to focus on process as we move forward here. So what does SMART stand for? SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, relevant, and time-bound. We'll unpack all of these momentarily. It also stands for, I think the S for remains for specific, but meaningful, agree upon or action-oriented, results-focused, rewarding, and timely/trackable. Sorry, got to minimize that for now. Not even sure where that went. We definitely need that back a little bit later. So I'll bring it up. Okay, we're going to figure this out. Okay, so just for the purpose of clarification, there are different definitions of these, or different ways by which these terms are typically understood. But for our purposes, we are going to go mainly with these. Okay, so we're going to focus on how do we not only have specific goals, but that they're measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So here's an example of specific. It's really the who, what, why, and how. Who's going to do the work? What will they do? What will you do? What will they do? Okay, why is that important? Why is that significant? Why does that drive you, or how does it drive you? Number 4, how will you achieve the goal, right? So what action, it's really similar to number 2, okay? But ultimately, how is the goal going to be met? And finally, how will the goal make you feel? Sometimes we have a tendency to overthink this and make them super complex. I will show you some examples of this broken up both in terms of the long version and the short version, so you get a real sense of what a good, solid, well-written goal could look like. Okay, so S is for specific. M is for measurable. Measurable means that the goals, you can say either it happened or it didn't happen. I have tangible evidence that it occurred. Okay, so that is what we mean by measurable. You don't want something that I will feel good or will have a positive relationship. Things that are difficult to measure, that are more touchy-feely perhaps, or a little bit gray and fuzzy, those are not the kinds of goals that we want to be creating. We want to be able to point to it and clearly say, yay or nay, it happened or it did not. In addition to being measurable, goals should also be meaningful, because if we're not inspired by them, guess what happens? That's right, they don't happen. And so we want to be inspired by our goals. The next piece, attainable or achievable, right? It should stretch you. Right? When I set a goal of 50 people, that was a stretch and I didn't reach it. But it was something that I could potentially have reached. And maybe in retrospect, I could have done more. I could have marketed a little bit differently. I could have reached out to different people or maybe paid for additional advertising. All of those are doable and I didn't. And I have to learn from the fact that I set goals that I ultimately didn't reach. But I definitely wanted to stretch myself and I did that. Okay, in addition, you need to know that you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to make this happen. And if you don't, then you have to ask yourselves, how will you get it? These are all really important, because if you don't have the tools, it's not going to happen. And that's, really critical. How you do it's really up to you. I'm talking, for example, about thinking about doing an online course right now. And so I am in the process of learning. This is really playing with me and I apologize for that. But I'm in the process of watching YouTube videos, for example, to see how you do this effectively. Whatever we want, there are teachers out there. You could either find it online, you could hire somebody, you could get a mentor, you could go to a class, figure out a way to learn what you need to learn. And then if there are other people involved, make sure that the goals are agreed upon. Because if they don't agree, then in all likelihood, it's not going to happen. I do apologize again for the pace in which I am advancing this process. If you have any questions, I am watching the chat carefully, and I'm certainly interested in hearing if you had any questions or comments. And as I look quickly, I see that there is nothing specific at the moment. Okay, let's continue. The goals should be relevant. Okay, that means that they should have a clear purpose, and the timing needs to be right. Whether it's resources in place, proper timing in terms of your bandwidth. I spoke to a potential client this morning. He's very interested in working with me as a coach, but the timing just wasn't right for him. He's got a lot of things on his plate, and he just did not have the bandwidth to move forward. So I'm hopeful that when I speak with him again in about a month, as we agreed, the timing will be better, right? Results focused. We talked about they should measure outcomes, not activities. So this is interesting. We talked before about being process versus product, but at the same time, ultimately, we want to measure, did the outcome occur? So it's not a matter of, did I do all of my activities to get 50 people to this webinar? The question is, did I get 50 people to the webinar? And the answer in this case is no. So I'm going to measure the outcome. Did I lose 20 pounds? The answer is maybe yes, maybe no, if that was my goal. So you want to focus on the outcomes. And finally, is it rewarding? Will it give you satisfaction? Will it help you feel achieved in whatever it is that you're looking to do? Really, really important items. And the last one, the T, stands for timely, time-bound, and trackable. Okay, so this means that it's something, they're all related to time, and we want to determine, are we setting goals with deadlines? Because in most cases, when there are deadlines attached, we perform better. We work more diligently, we're less distractible, things get done. And you want to build in, it's actually a lesson I learned when I was a teacher and I was setting deadlines for students. You don't want to just have a deadline. Let's say a paper is due in a month from now and just, sort of fall asleep at the wheel and hope that in a month everybody will have their papers ready for you. What you need to ultimately do is give yourself or whomever continued check-ins or reminders to ensure that you're making adequate progress towards your goals. Okay, so that is the introductory piece of today's presentation, understanding what a SMART goal is. Anything else that doesn't include these components may still be a goal, but it would not qualify as being a SMART goal. And we're going to focus then on process. So here's an example. Let's say you need to write a proposal for your business. Okay, you want to write a book, or you want to write a proposal for funding or whatever it might be. But proposals, as you can often imagine, are very involved processes. They take a lot of time, a lot of concentration. So here's your proposal that I've created for our purposes. And you'll have the long version. And then on the next slide, I'm going to show you, let me quickly show it to you beforehand. I'll show you the tighter version with the SMART broken down. Okay? So here's our example. In order to complete a proposal, which is my specific goal, I will set aside 30 minutes at the outset of each morning for the next 4 days for in-depth, uninterrupted work. That's my what. And I want to do it in the beginning of the morning, as we'll see, because I'm fresh. By completing this important first task in the morning, I can do it while my mind is freshest and still attend to many other tasks and responsibilities afterwards. That's why this is important, to do it and to do it when I need to do it. And by the way, another reason why it's important is because the proposal will ultimately produce for me, let's say, new work or new funding. I didn't even mention that, but that almost goes without saying. But obviously, that's very critical. That's what's driving this to begin with. During this time, I will not answer phone calls, respond to emails or texts, or engage in any other form of web surfing. That's how this is achieved. So for example, before I got into this webinar, I silenced my phone. I want to be fully present with you in our conversation. And finally, when the proposal is completed, I will feel as if a huge burden has been lifted from my shoulders and that I am infinitely closer to closing this deal. That is how I will feel. So now let's see it in SMART language. Okay, so here you see, I'm just pulling this down for a second if I can to see if anybody has been commenting that I didn't notice. Okay, back to where we were before. So to complete an important proposal by week's end, I will set aside 30 minutes at the outset of the next 4 days for in-depth, uninterrupted work. I will power down during this time. So the S specific is my who, what, why, how, and how. It's me writing it first thing. You see how it's broken down over there. Not going to repeat everything. The measurable is 30 minutes per day. Can I measure 30 minutes? Yes. Is this something that is achievable? The answer is yes. If I set myself up for success, I can achieve it. Is it relevant or is it realistic? It's relevant to me because I want to get an important task done. And is it time-bound? The answer is also yes. Okay, so again, feel free to ask any questions with the chat, but we are going to move to another example so that we can get ourselves in position for you to actually produce one SMART goal before we end today. That's my goal. Let's see if we can make it happen. So here's example number 2. I want to do some research about my clients because I want to serve them better. I just don't necessarily know enough about them, what makes them tick. This is relevant for me as a coach. It would be relevant perhaps for some of you as well. In order to better understand my clients' wants and needs, that's my specific goal, I will schedule 5 client calls for each of the next 3 weeks to connect with them and collect feedback. So that is the what. That's what I'm going to do. By completing this important task, I can make sounder decisions that satisfy my clients and improve my bottom line. That is why this is important. First, I will prepare a short list of interview questions. Then I will reach out to 30 clients with the hope of scheduling at least 15 conversations. And this is how I will achieve my goal. Finally, when the calls are completed, I will feel as if I have gained new insights into my target market, which will make me more confident in my planning and decision making. And that is how I will feel. I will feel super, more informed, better prepared to tackle the world and meet my clients and meet their needs. Here we have the same goal, but in different format. Again, I'm going to try to move the chat so we can see it more completely. Here's the goal. I will schedule 5 client calls per week for the next 3 weeks so that I can better understand their wants and needs. This will make me feel more confident in my ability to make sound business decisions. And then you see how it's broken down underneath. Now, you don't need to write this super extensive, wordy piece. It may be very helpful to you. In fact, I would encourage you to do that. But if you feel that that's not your style or you just want to jump right in, a smaller goal is more than adequate. The main thing is that you will do it and you will take action as a result of doing it. Any questions or comments? Okay, I see from Gary, create a mindfulness. Let's see here if I can pull this open. I'm not seeing the whole thing. 1 second, please. Create a mindfulness to achieve the goal. Okay, Gary, I'd love to have you elaborate on that when you said mindfulness, what exactly you mean. If you mean mindset or if you mean something different. But we're going to move on. In the meantime, feel free to comment further. Okay, I'm going to skip this one. As important as this one is, you will see, or I will share with you the slides. Hopefully, you can certainly ask them of me. I'm sorry, this keeps happening, and I'm trying to get this a little bit smaller to see more text, but it's going to be a challenge. Anyway, the bottom line is cultivating stronger workplace relationships is super important, and I hope all of us are focused on that if we are leaders, but I'm just not going to break it down for you in great detail because I'm looking at the clock, and I want to make sure that we have time still to write our own SMART goals. Hopefully by now, you've gotten the gist of it, and you understand the importance of being very, very specific in terms of who and what and why and how, right? Am I going to do it? What will I do? Why will I do it? How will I get it done, right? What tools do I need? What training do I need? What experiences, contacts, etc.? And how is it going to make me feel as a result? And then the rest of it, in most cases, will follow suit. Okay, don't forget the 3 C's. C number 1 is to clarify what exactly you want. C number 2, contract with anyone who needs to do it. It may be with yourself. It may be with people on your team or outside of your team that you're bringing in specifically for this purpose. And then finally, commit. Commit to getting it done. Don't just make goals for the sake of making them. Make a commitment and hold yourself and hold your team accountable. Let everybody know from the beginning that that's your goal. Okay? So, Gary, your question. Okay. Yeah, back to MH for a moment. I do like to have things written out. That's just the way I roll. I'm a writer, so that's my preference. Not everybody's that way, but if you follow the template that I gave you, you have opportunities to do it in different ways. The first version is more of a graphic organizer, like a table, and you plot things in based on the core intentions as well as details. And then underneath it, the final couple of pages allow you to write it out more in sentence form. To me, it's less about style. It's more about content and then ultimately contracting and committing. If you're clear, if you got these 3 C's, I don't care if you have it in your head, but writing it down is always going to be better. That's for sure. Okay? And in terms of the why, that's up to you, Gary. If you think that the why is going to drive you first and foremost, that's totally fine. So long as it's all there by the time everything is said and done and it lines up properly, it all kind of supports each other, I think you're totally fine. Okay, so it's almost your turn to start writing your SMART goals. But before you do, I do want to share with you how you can go deeper in all of this. First of all, let's take a look at number 1 on the left side. I do want you to get your hands on a copy of the Epic Solution to Understaffing. I think it's a great resource that you certainly would like to take a look at. In fact, the SMART Goals template was taken out of this ebook. So whether you're a small business owner or entrepreneur, whether you're a new non-for-profit leader, or frankly, you're a leader of a corporate enterprise, you're a C-suite executive, it really doesn't matter. The elements of understaffing or the challenges therein are relevant to everyone. And even if you have so many people that you don't even know what to do with them, there's a lot of good content in there anyway about team building, about communication, about understanding your own influence as a leader. That's really what it stands for. E is for, now I got to actually remember it. 1 second. P is for pull yourself together. I is for influence. C is for communication. And E is totally slipping my mind, which is bizarre. But nonetheless, there are 4 different elements to it that I think can provide good value. And on the other side, I'm going to pull this down so you could see it fully. It's group coaching is forming as we speak. And I have a special offering on my website. I encourage you to go take a look at impactfulcoaching.com/group-coaching. Once again, /group-coaching. Go over there and take a look. I think that you will see some different packages, which I'm going to unpack for you shortly. But in the meantime, wanted to bring that to your attention. And what are the benefits of group coaching? They're all here, right? I want you to be able to grow your business, add a steady stream of new clients, strengthen your leadership style and executive presence. What we did today in SMART goal development is just one piece of what great leaders do. And there's so much more to unpack. And doing it with colleagues that are similarly motivated to you to get things done can be extremely empowering and invigorating. And on top of it, requires you to make things happen, which you may not do on your own. So it's got networking involved. You learn from one another. Really lots and lots of benefits. And here are the two packages. The pricing is on the website, but you've got the standard package is going to expand again. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to bring this up without doing that. But nonetheless, you've got the standard option and then also a platinum option. And the platinum option, in addition to everything that is available in the standard package, you also get 2 50-minute one-to-one coaching sessions, which are very valuable, if I may say so myself. Number 2, a signed copy of my book, Becoming the New Boss, as well as a free copy of a 40-page Tips to Manage Stress ebook that I have written. And I'd like to give all that to you, really super value. And on top of it, for those of you who sign up over the next few days, there is a special coupon code that I'm going to be sending to you via email after this presentation, which you can take advantage to add an additional discount to your cost. So it's on sale plus a discount. You really want to stack this, I think, in a way that it could be very valuable. Now, looking at T. Dickey's question for a second, with a larger task, can you set up a series of SMART goals? The answer is absolutely yes. You can do that. But you might want to watch a video that I put out on social media the other day called the Big Picture Framework. And if you look at that, and that's actually in the ebook as well, the Epic ebook. So get it for that reason alone. If you're working on your big picture framework, you have a bigger sense of what you're trying to accomplish. You can then break it down into individual actions and responsibilities, and then use your SMART process to what's it called? To make sure that nothing falls falls through the cracks, so to speak. Okay, I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, please don't hesitate to clarify further. Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, I included it on the PowerPoint as well. So that's wrong. It doesn't expire in 24 hours. It's a mistake. It expires on Monday at midnight. This is from an earlier one, and I didn't update it, so my apologies. But you will get that information on an email coming soon. It does expire soon, though. And so I definitely would encourage you to take a look and to take action quickly, because I think that these are going to go quickly, and I think ultimately it's going to be a huge benefit for all participants. All right, so now it's your turn. And I'm going to stop talking in just a moment, but I think that I think it's important that we spend a little bit of time on this. And again, I encourage you to take out your template, which again, I hope you have already printed, and think about the goal you want to achieve. Who's going to do it? Go through all of the questions. Try to answer as many as you can, at least for starters. I don't expect you to type all of this into the chat, but you can email me. And if you want and have the capacity to write up at least an initial draft of a goal and put it into the chat, if we're able to do it in the next couple of minutes before everybody has to go, I'll be more than happy to look at it and offer some feedback. I recommend you think about something small, not something significant that may be too big for you to tackle, but something that's very, very much within your locus of control that could occur today, this week, this month, and focus on that. If you have any questions about how to do this, feel free to do that as well, to mention that in the chat, and I will try to respond. Maybe if you can, while you're still working, you can type in a little something about the general gist or nature of the goal that you have, that you're working on. Such as set up more meetings, lose weight, get more exercise, communicate more regularly, something along these lines. Make more sales. Okay, get your thesis done is a pretty big one. Thankfully, I've had the opportunity to do that and break it down. So yes, in that regard, I don't know your first name, I'm sorry. But T. Dickey, in response to what you're saying, I do think that Tracy, thank you, Tracy. That working on it in pieces is probably the way to go. The beauty of it is that it's in most instances, it should be pretty clear that you've got a number of big chunks that you have to approach. So I think that alone will allow you to subdivide your focus. And Kesser Torah, I got it as a private message, but the frequency of checking your goals, it's a great question. It's going to depend, I think, on a lot of things. It'll depend on the overall duration of the goal. It'll depend on who's involved in the process, how much work is involved. But I would say minimally once a week, because if you're not checking often on progress, then the likelihood of you succeeding is diminished dramatically. So stay on top of it, set reminders for yourself, make sure that you are in regular touch. One thing that I love to do, and I recommend this all the time, is have an accountability partner. That means somebody else that is going to also commit to a goal. And let's say you work independently, you don't really have somebody in your office space, or it's a personal goal, so it's not related to work, but find somebody that you can engage with that will be your accountability partner. I mean, coaches do it. It's obviously not a free service to do it that way. And you're welcome to use me as an accountability partner. But you oftentimes can find somebody in your family, in your community, amongst your friends that could do that with you. Let's see, for MH, I took a small task and wrote it up because I tend to underestimate how much time that will take if I don't focus. Okay, and you're welcome to tell us what that task related to. But that's really great. And I appreciate all of your feedback. And if anyone else has comments, you're welcome to share them as well. So let's now pivot, because we're running low on time. And I'm going to ask you if we were successful in the process that we committed to at the beginning. So number one, did we arrive at a clear understanding of what SMART goals are or what they aren't? Kindly respond to that, please. If you feel that you are clear, or pretty clear, maybe not perfect because it was a one-off, so to speak, and you haven't necessarily had an opportunity to review it. And you will get a recording, by the way, a review of the recording, so you can listen to it again. But do you feel that you are now clearer on what SMART goals are and what they are not? Let's start with that. A yes or a Y would be fine. You can put it in the chat. Okay, thank you for your response. And Kesser Torah, needing more time is totally fine. I would probably need more time to process as well. The main thing is that you take the time to commit. That's really critical. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, some time with the attainable piece. Okay, breaking that, that's excellent. Very important. And being honest with yourself is important as well. So I appreciate you being clear in terms of what the challenges may be and how you're going to move forward with it. And Gary, yes, absorbing is critical. And it's a shame that we only have a limited amount of time. That's one of the reasons why, like I talked about before, the group coaching piece can be so powerful, because it gives you more time and you get to drive, to a large degree, you get to drive the agenda based on the common interests of the group. But either way, even if this is our only engagement together, the fact that we're starting with an understanding that there's a framework, that there are different components, and that each one is important, and then you have a template to work with, that that's going to make your life a lot easier. So do have that template handy for you. Okay, number 2, did we review examples of well-structured business-related goals? You feel that they were structured in a way that you could more or less replicate the structure that I provided? Okay, I have 1 Y so far. I'm curious as to which example spoke to you most, even though I didn't share that many. I think I shared 3. The one about participants, the one about the proposal, and then there was another one that I actually went through with you. I'm going to go back to, well, okay. You saw immediate relevance. That's important. Thank you. I appreciate that. And finally, as we wrap up, did I give you a chance to practice? I think the answer is yes. Maybe not enough, but I definitely gave you some. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to wrap things up. As I said to you, you will be getting a couple of emails from me to give you this content, as well as to give you information about the group coaching. I hope that it was valuable to you, and if you think that it could be useful for others as well, please do not hesitate to pass the recording along. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking your time on a busy Wednesday afternoon, and I'm hoping that this added a lot of value to your work. Have a fantastic day, and let's be in touch. Bye-bye now.